Turkish government claims it just discovered almost 700 million metric tons of rare earth minerals. It's 15 times China's reserve, if this is true. You guys probably know we use about 150,000 metric tons a year right now. That's going to double by 2030. This is something like 4,000 years at the current demand, and this would put them far beyond anybody else's. Chamath, you've got investments in this space. I don't know if you've been tracking this news. Thoughts on another massive discovery of rare earths? What did you guys just have dinner? Dinner or surf? What do you guys?
No, Nat's the best. She brought us
What you got,
panini.
A little pasta? Well, show me.
There's an incredible restaurant here in Milan called DeSantis, which makes the best paninis you've ever tasted.
Is this a harbinger of the future? DeSantis. What could be more perfect than that?
Oh, the DeSantis
Right?
Panini. Here you go.
This is the oracle.
Sacks with the subliminal influence.
Absolutely.
So good.
This is what's going to get us out of this situation. DeSantis.
Oh, here we go. All right, Chamath, just quickly on the rare earths. If this is actually true, what would this do? And have you been tracking the situation? Because it does seem there's some truth to it, yeah.
I think it's important to just take a step back and kind of look at this thing with not like complete skepticism, but just a little skepticism. It's not surprising that there's additional deposits all around the world, meaning we've always said rare earths are not particularly that rare. It's just the question is, which of the 17 rare earth elements, at what grade, meaning at what % concentration does it exist? And then really importantly, at what cost to extract it economically?
Yeah.
Right. So meaning there's a ton of underdeveloped rare earth assets in Canada, the US, Africa, Australia, Brazil. They're just underdeveloped because when you put all of these factors together, it's really tough. So the government release says they're going to process like 570,000 tons of ore. That'll produce around 10,000 kilotons per year of rare earths. That implies sort of a 1.75 to 2% grade. It's fine. So there's just a lot more work. I would just sort of say it's really directionally great. A lot more work needs to be done. And more importantly, they need to release enough of this detail so folks like us and others can actually diligence it to tell you more accurately. But the press release was exciting.
Freeberg, this reminds me a little bit of the peak oil head fake we had 15 years ago. Everybody basically said, we're not going to find more oil. Here's what's left of oil. And then Norway's like, yeah, we just found more oil than existed previously and has been pulled out. And the whole concept that the world's going to run out of oil is now gone. So Freeberg, what is happening in science that we just can't predict what resources are available?
We know very little about what's inside below a certain depth of the crust of the earth. So, there's some estimates, but we're always surprised. And we know very little about the distribution of those elements in the crust of the earth and below the crust of the earth. Mining's an incredible industry. I don't know the state of the art in engineering and mining very well. But, from a pure geophysics point of view, by some estimates, we have 10 billion years of energy reserves below the crust of the earth that we can access in the form of nuclear reserves, geothermal power, and that's excluding, some of the potential of some of these elements and what they could do in building a more sustainable energy economy.
So why are people so pessimistic when we keep surprising ourselves with more resources?
Anyone wants a great book? None of you guys were at the dinner that I did a few weeks ago where we had Steven Pinker come for dinner. Yeah. Read his book, Enlightenment Now. Or you could watch one of his videos on YouTube where he's got like all 60 slides. And he highlights humans have a tendency to focus on the risks and the concerns and the downsides. And we miss the incredible optimism that is apparent as we actually look at the data of what's happening with our species and what we're doing on our planet. We have every reason to be optimistic. We have fewer wars than we've ever had. Murder rate per capita is lowest than it ever been. Longevity is increasing. Health is increasing. Per capita, everything's increasing. And I think that the same is true in terms of, scientific breakthroughs, discovery, and engineering our way to a more sustainable energy and food future.
This is one of the great things about having you as a friend, Freeberg, is your relentless optimism and your actual cool, calm, collective lack of anxiety. In other amazing news, the EU Parliament has flipped again. Greta Thunberg is completely tilted. We talked about the virtue signaling EU Parliament, and Germany turning off their nuclear power plants and just securing the bag for Putin. The EU Parliament flipped, and they are now saying, these virtue signaling knuckleheads, they came to the census and now they believe nuclear is green. Also green, according to the EU Parliament, is natural gas. So this to me feels like the beginning of the end for Putin and Saudi Arabia. If you look at the U.S. becoming a net exporter of energy, it's quite possible the EU could become that as well if they actually, and this is a big if they actually, start building nuclear.
It could be the beginning of the end of what some people are calling the woke green movement. And
that's certainly over. Yeah.
This realization that to transition to the next beyond the carbon economy is going to require continuing to invest in and support the carbon economy until those alternative solutions emerge, and to have dual track investing. And I think that that's what we're seeing around the world, in the United States, in Europe now. And Europe has always been way farther left than the United States in taking this point of view. And I think now this has been a wake up call for everyone.
And all it took was just a little bit of $6 gasoline, and for people to personally suffer, for them to change their virtue signaling nonsense.
Yeah, this is markets at work.
Yeah,
this is simply
literally
markets at
educating the public. Would you rather be beholden to Putin?
They pivoted because of Putin.
Or would you rather have nukes?
They pivoted from banning energy production to banning food production. Should we talk about the Netherlands thing?
We're about to get there.
Well, so on the energy side, I did in the group chat just a little breakdown on the math. I think it may be interesting for people to understand. But today, globally around the world, every single country in the world that is involved in the oil business is able to produce exactly 1 million more barrels per day than we need. So let's assume that we, need 100 million barrels of oil a day as a world to continue to do everything we want to do. We produce 101 million. So we're right on the knife's edge. By August, we're going to go through a capacity increase in OPEC plus, which is, OPEC plus Russia, et cetera. Saudi Arabia is going to go from 10 million barrels a day to 11 million barrels. So not a huge increase. Russia is thought to be able to cut production if they feel pressure up to 5 million barrels a day without having any impact to their economy. So JP Morgan, I think, and Credit Suisse, they did this sensitivity analysis. And here's what they found. They found that if Russia were to cut 3 million barrels of oil, so we would go from being oversupplied by 1 million to undersupplied by 2, the price of oil would go to about $180 a barrel. If they cut 5 million, so the threshold at which their economy doesn't really get that impacted, the price of oil could go as high as $380 a barrel. Well, you would say, okay, well, we just need to pump more oil from other places. And this is the problem in all of these rules that have existed for so long. The capacity doesn't exist, right? We were destroying supply. Governments all around the world were making it very difficult to generate the supply of nuclear, to generate the supply of oil, and to generate the supply of nat gas. So Saudi Arabia says, we can get to 12 million. Well, guess what? They can only start the work in 2024. They'll be done in 2027.
Yeah.
So to your point, all of a sudden we realize, wait, we needed these bridge fuels all along. Yep. How did we allow all of this supply destruction to happen? And now we need to unwind it. It's going to be a very complicated process. And if any of these things happen, if Russia decides to play hardball against Europe or America, we better hope that it's a mild winter, because very quickly you can go from plus 1 million barrels to minus 2 in a heartbeat.
Yeah. And America's going to start.
And the last point on this, Saudi Arabia, you'd say, okay, well, Saudi Arabia is going to go from 10 to 11, so that's good. They have been at 11 million for a sum total of 8 weeks in their entire lifetime.
If we look at this, I mean, Americans also buying 20 to 25 mile per gallon cars, that's got to end too. And so personal responsibility is part of this. The really interesting thing is China already has this plan. Their nuclear strategy with the Belt and Road Initiative is to put 30 nuclear reactors in countries outside of China that they're trying to have influence in. And they're building 30 nukes right now. They got 150 planned. So China's just ultimately savvy and thinking big here about energy independence, and we need to follow them. Other big